Welcome in. My name is Ben Weemus. I am a blogger for the Physics Daily paper, that's what I was about to say, newspaper magazine, and um, I actually just got back from an overseas trip, and I was asked to do a vlog, basically just stating how I interacted with physics throughout the trip. And I think people kind of do things and not really think about it, but physics is all around us, and we use it all the time. So to help kind of explain this better, we kind of had this vlog to help with just explaining it better and showing how we interact with it every single day. So the first one, so physics principles and connecting to real life interactions. So when I was on this trip, I ended up going to a theme park and I went on a roller coaster. And a roller coaster, like I said, like a lot of people ride it and don't really think about how like physics affects it. Basically because we just don't think any differently, obviously. I mean, it's not something we have to think about constantly, but if you think about it, physics is the science of energy and the amount of energy it takes to run like a roller coaster. So, I mean, like just for example, when you're going up to the tippy top and you get to the very top, it takes the most energy to get up to the top because of the gravitational pull of the Earth, which is also part of physics, which is what was theorized by Isaac Newton and part of like the classical physics era that he was in. So the energy used to get up to the top is very much less when going down because of the gravitational pull of the Earth. I mean, technically the energy would technically be the same, but in terms of energy exerted by the roller coaster itself, it's going to be the most when you go to the very top. Another example of this is when I got my rental car. The amount of energy, like physics principles involved in that, or just the energy to run the car. This is a battery powered car I use with basically no gas used, so that the energy powered the car without like really even having to use like any fossil fuels or gas. So basically, the battery itself, which is a good example of energy, and basically a battery is ran by negative positive particles that interact with each other at all times and with the speed of light, so we can't see them. So that battery like charged the rental car. And these are just a few examples of how it relates to the everyday lives of us and in my life as well, just using the car and like I said, going to theme parks and going on roller coasters. So scientific method is next. So scientific method is pretty simple. So I mean, it's another thing we sometimes do, and we don't even think about like the process of it. So scientific method is basically is just a process where you ask a question, you do research on it, you come up with your own kind of like hypothesis of what you think about it, and then you kind of do an experiment. You kind of observe, hey, like, it was my hypothesis true or not, and then once you do observations and can draw conclusions, you present your findings to your peers or your families or whatever. So I mean, like a random example, not related to the trip, but like if you were, I don't know how long, like I think that cooking the steak at this temperature will make it more tender as opposed to cooking at this temperature, and then you test it, and it's like, well, it's not what you thought it would be, and then you tell your wife or your husband, hey, like this is how I did this, and it didn't turn out the way I thought it would. But on the trip, a scientific, sorry, I got lost there. A scientific method that I used was just testing my cell phone in the country I was in. Kind of was all over the place with in terms of its battery life. So I was wondering, hey, does the battery last longer at the hotel with the Wi-Fi or out on the street using the towers? And I asked that question, did some research. General conclusion is that the Wi-Fi will make it run faster. Why that is, I'm not 100% sure. So I ended up going out on the street, testing my battery out that way. Didn't really try to use a ton of apps. Took a few pictures and stuff like that. We went to the hotel, had the Wi-Fi on, did a few pictures and stuff like that, and the battery seemed to last longer with the Wi-Fi. So that was the conclusion I drew. I kind of shared that with the companions on the trip. Well, that's the scientific method. Classical physics. Examples of classical physics are kind of more simplistic than what we would understand modern physics today. Classical physics, when you think about it, you would probably think about Isaac Newton and his laws, and like his were like the action-reaction theory. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and like how the gravity affected like each like object or individual, it'll affect it equally for as long as we're at rest. So a good example of this, we went off in the airplane, we came down, the gravitational pull of the Earth allowed us to land. Another one, I guess I go back to the car example, I push on the gas of the rental car, it will make the the force on the car greater, which will then increase the reaction. So basically, when you decrease the RPM in the gas, increases the force, and it creates an equal and opposite reaction. It makes your car go faster. So that's a very quick and easy example of classical physics. And then physics in modern technology. So modern physics kind of delves in a little bit deeper, where it kind of expands up classical physics and basically explains why it makes things such as our technology run. And technology dominates our everyday lives. So a good example of modern technology is, like I said, like I can go back to the example of the battery every single time. The battery, positive and negative charge particles interact with it pretty much on a daily basis. And another example would be like if you're using your computer, the power strip all the way up to just turning it on. That's another example of modern technology and physics. And a good example of this is the idea of quantum physics, which we'll get into next. So quantum physics, like I said, interacts with all the technology around us, basically stating that all life is broken down into subatomic particles and atoms, basically, when it comes to energy. So a good example as well is on my trip, I took pictures with my camera. Like you can honestly go all the way. You can do anything you want with this when it comes to technology. Like just from using my phone, for starters, using up the battery, to just taking a picture where the phone has to interact with negative and positively charged particles to create the flash to take the picture, to coming back to my office now and creating this vlog and interacting with the computer with the power strip, the power button, clicking on things and everything interacting with one another. To the computer internal positive and negative charges interacting with the Wi-Fi I'm using. Like you can literally go through all of your technology and figure out how quantum mechanics will affect it. And this will wrap up the vlog. Thank you all for coming. Have a good day.